Hello everyone, welcome to Be Happy Now, Mindfulness for Women. I'm Annie Stoker and I'm just thrilled that you've chosen to join me for what is my absolutely favourite journey. Mindfulness is definitely right up there in my choice of amazing processes and just a way of being actually that is so powerful, so transformative for people. And I'm so excited that you're here with me today to join me for this journey. It's going to be a great trip. All right, so before I go any further, I just want to make sure that you can all hear me okay. So if you go ahead and click your hand symbols on the left-hand side of your GoToWebinar control panel, just click your hands and I know that you can all hear me. That's it. Good, perfect. Thank you, everybody. Wonderful. All right, so many of you know me really well. Few of you on the line don't know me. So just to flag that, as I said, my name's Annie. And I've had the enormous privilege of working with Joanna Martin now for probably 7 years. So many of you have come through one of many. So you've probably seen me on stage at the One Woman Conference or running webinars. So run the coaching department. I'm a trainer. I've also had the amazing opportunity to collaborate on much of the content along with the wonderful Susie Heath. And it's been an extraordinary journey seeing how the journey to help women become less overwhelmed, more in their soft power and flow has just taken off over the last few years. So it's just been an amazing opportunity to support women with actually a lot of mindfulness techniques, even though we haven't necessarily called it that. There's a lot of my work that's been kind of knitted through the content at One of Many. So if you know me from there, that's all familiar to you. However, I've had my own business for probably 20, oh goodness, showing my age, probably 26 years now, supporting women and men actually in a variety of different ways. I started working with the body, actually doing massage and reflexology and naturopathy, and then really moved into psychotherapy and a lot of meditation and mindfulness work. So I've been really interested in how to apply mindfulness. A lot of people get into mindfulness through, going to an ashram, going to a meditation class and learning how to quiet their mind and sit and do meditation. But then when they go home, it kind of all falls apart because the washing machine's broken and the kids are screaming and the car's broken down. And, I'm really, really interested in how do we take the concepts and the principles of mindfulness and apply them into our lives. So that's what I'm going to be doing with you over the next 4 weeks, is taking you through a journey of giving you some basics of mindfulness tools for sure, but then really supporting you to go out there and use the tools in your daily life to improve your relationships, to reduce work stress, to get very present in your life and really enjoy what's going on, and also to be what I call happy no matter what. And I'll explain what that is a bit later. Excuse me, I've had a cold, so I'm slightly grumbly in the voice, so if a bit croaky, please excuse me. So I just want to kind of flag up, first of all, why mindfulness? And the big picture around mindfulness is that it's something that happens on the inside. Whereas most people are very focused on the outside. We're focused on creating a great career, getting money in the bank, having a good, solid relationship, being healthy. And you can go to endless courses on how to have what I call a great life, tick all the boxes, get your 2.5 kids and your nice car in the drive and the money in the bank, and everything's all fine that way. But it doesn't mean that we're happy, as we just have to look at Hollywood for that. Many people there have ticked all the boxes of having what we think is a great life. But it's rife with divorce and suicide and drug overdoses and all sorts of horrendous stuff. So I just want to turn that general kind of equation that happens in society on its head for a moment and look at what happens if we actually go directly for happiness. So I've called this program Be Happy Now because I believe that if you go directly for happiness by understanding what it is, how you can find it, what it isn't, how you can avoid it, being unhappy, then life becomes kind of a whole lot smoother, a whole lot easier. And then everything in your external life, which is your career, your relationships, your finances, and your health, becomes kind of like the icing on the cake. Because we can say to you, so would you like to be with your absolutely perfect partner, but be miserable? Or would you like to have great health, but feel depressed every day? And nobody would. We all actually want to be happy more than we want to be in a relationship or or have the money in the bank, you know? Happiness is actually what we crave most. Happiness, love, you know, just to feel good. We all want that. Whatever walks of life you come from, whatever country you go to, people just want to be happy. They want to feel good and they want to get out of pain, right? Excuse me. So what we're doing here in this program is looking at how we can find a place of happiness first, and from that place create an amazing external life because we're actually feeling good already rather than waiting for something nice to happen for us. Because I know many, many people that I've spoken to over the years. I've worked with thousands of clients over 26 years. They're all kind of going, well, I'll be happy when I get the promotion. I'll be happy when my partner does the washing up. I'll be happy when I get the nice Mercedes convertible. And I'll be happy when my acne's cleared up. You know what I mean? And you can be waiting for a really long time for that. So we're going to be looking here at how do we turn that equation around? How do we go directly for happiness? What part does mindfulness have in that? And then how can you practice when you have that really solid experience of kind of peacefulness on the inside? How can you take that out into your outside life? Now, I just want to flag what I mean by happiness, okay? I don't mean la la, rah rah, let's go to a party, happy, bouncing up and down, kind of grinning and overexcited. Not that one. I mean just content kind of happiness, you know, just like, life's great. You don't have to jump up and down for that. You just have to feel that kind of sense of contentment, that kind of happy. You know what I mean by that? So that's what we're up for during this journey. Now, how these calls are going to work is I'm going to present the content. I'll be taking you through some exercises. One of those exercises today will involve you having something to drink and eat. So if you want to grab something, not yet, probably in about, 15 minutes or so. If you want to grab something to drink, preferably cool, it's probably easier, like a glass of water, and something to nibble on. Doesn't matter what it is, a grape or a raisin or a bit of biscuit or something. Just have that with you. That'll be awesome. I'll be taking you through exercises. You're very welcome to put questions into the question box as we go through. And you can type questions to me. I'll see them. I will reply either then or a bit later. And I will open the line for you to have a chat, one-to-one at the end of the call, if that's okay. So I'll answer any typed in questions, but I just want to keep the flow going, and then I'll stay behind at the end of the kind of the content, and then we can have a chat if you want to. All right. So here's a very simplistic way to think about happiness, but in my experience, it's actually pretty true. So if we ask the question then, so if we're not looking for external, fixing our career or getting more money in the bank or making sure that our partner does the washing up, how do we actually get to be happy? Well, in all my experience, I see that actually it's about, clicking on the wrong button there. It's about stopping being unhappy. I think that being unhappy is a doing. It's a something that you do to get to be unhappy. Our natural state is actually always underneath a state of happiness, of freedom, of peace, is very present, it's very close, much closer than we might think. And if you just stop doing the things that cause the unhappiness, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to get the latest kitchen benches or the flash car. You don't have to do anything. Happiness is automatically there. And you've probably all had experiences of that, right? That when you just stop being stressed, you stop worrying about something, you forgive something that's happened to you or someone that's done something nasty, and you just let go and go do something fun, or even just, hanging out with a tree sometimes. You can be happy. You don't have to do something. It just is there all by itself. Do you get what I mean by that, everyone? It's really a stopping rather than a doing. That's how you get to be happy. So I'm going to look now a bit more at how the unhappiness shows up. What do we actually do to create this unhappiness that is covering over the happiness? In this picture, it's like imagining that no matter how black the clouds are, no matter how much it's hailing or snowing or crashing thunder, that if you go high enough, there is always blue sky. You are not the weather. You are the blue sky, and the weather appears in you, if you like, your emotions and your states appear in you, but you are not them. They just appear in what you are, which is actually the blue sky. So this journey with me over the next 4 weeks is going to be about how do we kind of move through the storms and the weather as easily and as peacefully as we can, so that we can remember that we are the blue sky and get back to that experience. Okay, so unhappiness is something that you create, something that you do. And it's something that you create either through having negative thoughts. So either through having negative thoughts about what's going on for you, or it's thinking about the past or the future. Now, the mind is always in either in the past or the future. Like, it's very difficult to think about now. Like, what do you think about now? Okay, so I'm sitting in a chair. I'm looking at a computer screen. What else do you really think about? If you start getting very vigilant about noticing your thoughts, you'll see actually that your thoughts are very much generally focused in either with something that's happened in the past, and you're either worrying about it or obsessing about it or kind of wishing it had been different, or you're focusing on the future. What am I going to do? How's it going to be? Worrying about it or planning that it might be really difficult. So we very often spend little time actually in the present. So when you're caught up in negative thoughts, those of you who've come across the cycle of creation will know that when you interpret a moment in a negative way, you create an emotional state, and that informs how you then behave. So your negative thoughts will create negative emotions, and that really equals what we call a state of unhappiness. Now, many of you will have heard me say that I don't really believe in negative emotions. I'll deal with that later, but the general kind of thought is that these emotions are negative. I don't want to feel sad or angry or upset. And then unhappiness is kind of like a state that we get into when we keep doing it, when we keep doing the same negative thoughts. For example, if I tell myself that I've got a meeting coming up, I'm terrified, it's going to go really badly, I create fear in my system. I create a feeling of self-doubt. I create a feeling of being discouraged. And then I start to feel quite flat. I feel a bit anxious, and I really don't want to go to the meeting. However, if I was to say to myself, this meeting's going to go brilliantly, I know my staff, I'm a great asset to this company, and I'm really looking forward to the meeting, I'm going to create an experience inside me of positivity, of hope, of encouragement, of, looking forward, of almost even excitement. And from there, I'll take different action in that meeting. So unhappiness is something that people can get stuck in seriously for years. I've met people who are stuck in a chronic state of anxiety, depression, stress for years, if not decades. And of course, it's not there 24/7, but it's a very chronic state. And it makes me furious when I see that, not with them, of course, but just with the lack of education that there is around on the fact that that's not necessary. Some of you have heard me talk about my dear darling mother, who really was like that. She was, she had her sparky days, but she was just so fearful and so stressful about life and terrified of everything. And it was just the driver for me to get into the work that I've done for my whole life, really. Since I was 16, I got into this work. And so getting stuck in a state of unhappiness is just so preventable and so unnecessary. So let's have a look at what we can do about it. Where does mindfulness come in? The reason why I'm so passionate about mindfulness and sharing that with as many people as I can is that mindfulness brings in a couple of very important different aspects. First of all, it gets us into the present moment, and I think this is a really nice definition of mindfulness. So bringing us back into the present moment, as we've already discovered, actually helps reduce so many of the problems that we suffer from, because the problems are made up in our mind in the past or in the future, right? The second point in this quote here is that non-judgmental awareness. I just described very briefly what we call at one of many the cycle of creation. Now, it's actually our judgments about whether things are good or bad or right or wrong that causes that suffering. So to have awareness in the present moment, but to have it be non-judgmental, means that you're able to really relate with life in a completely different way. So mindfulness is a whole lot more than just, sitting peacefully if you've thought it was that, or learning how to kind of, have a quieter mind. It's a lot more than that. So just to flag, there's two things going on. There's your mind, right? And I'm going to call your mind the machine. So your machine creates thoughts. It's a machine. That's what it does. That's what it's there for. It creates thoughts. There are synapses that are firing off, and there are patterns that happen in the brain that just create repetitive thoughts. Some researchers say that we actually think 70% of the same, or even 80% of the same thoughts that we thought yesterday, which is the same thoughts we thought the day before, and so on. It's repetitive thinking. If you think of it like a groove in a CD, we create a thought, we get stuck in that groove, we just go over and over and over and over it. And for any of you who are doing work in some of our programs with one of many, you'll see that time and time again we come back to, is that a limiting belief? What are you thinking that's getting you caught into that kind of disempowering state? Because those limiting beliefs, we tell ourselves those beliefs like, I'm not good enough. We'll say that to ourselves thousands and thousands of times over the years. So it's about recognizing that our mind is always going to spew out thoughts. That's its job. You're not going to stop the mind. Please don't go for stopping the mind. Having a quiet mind comes as a result of something else, okay? So that's the thing. There's the mind, but then there's something else, which is your awareness. Now, the reason why you might go, how do you mean there's two of me in there? Well, yes, but your awareness isn't your mind. Your awareness is something that you can put on the mind, for sure. You can shine your awareness on your mind. You can have your awareness trained on your thoughts, just you're in your head all the time. Some people describe it as that. You're very convinced that all your thoughts are real and you're listening to them all the time. And most people are very aware that their awareness is trained on the mind. You can almost think of your awareness like a torch, okay? But what happens if you're not thinking? And some of you are going, how do you mean not thinking? I'm always thinking. But I don't agree with that. What about if you're in a movie and you're completely absorbed in the movie? One of those amazing movies that sucks you in and you're sitting there and your mouth's hanging open and you're gripping the arm of the chair and you're kind of jumping on your partner's lap next to you. That kind of movie, I'll guarantee that you won't be thinking through it. You'll be just so absorbed in that movie that you've lost awareness of your body, the fact that you're sitting in a cinema. You're just in the movie. Your awareness is shone onto that movie screen and you're completely absorbed, right? So in that experience, your awareness is not on the mind. You're having no thoughts. You're just kind of being. You can put your awareness on your emotions. As I said before, some people get really hooked into being unhappy and sad. And if you have a lot of emotions, it can take your energy, it can take your awareness. And some people get very concerned with their emotional state and spend a lot of time, doing anxiousness, doing depression, doing sadness, doing anger, and having a lot of their awareness and their time focused on that. You can also put your awareness on your body, on your physicality. I've certainly met a lot of people who are kind of cut off from the neck down over the years. They don't really know that their body's there. They certainly don't have a good relationship with it. But of course you can put your body on there and moving it, doing exercise. And here at One of Many, we really do put a lot of attention on getting into your body for the purposes of the fact that we store so much in our body that you don't normally get access to through the conscious mind, because the body holds everything that's subconscious. So you can certainly shine your awareness on your body. You can also shine your awareness on your environment. So what's around you? What can you see around you? Is the furniture? What can you see out the window? What's going on? Many people are so externally focused all the time that they're constantly thinking of what's happening around them. And they're not so self-aware. In other words, they're focused on the external. So, I've just got a message saying somebody can't hear. Can anyone else tell me? Could you just put your hands up and make sure that you can all hear me? Catherine, I'm just checking that it's not. Okay, good. It's all right. Sorry, Catherine, it's It's not this end, it's something your end, okay? So you just need to check your sound settings, except you can't hear me say that. Ha ha! Sorry, Catherine, but it is working. Okay, so yes, I was talking about environment, right? So you can put your attention on your environment. So if you think of your awareness like a torch like that, then you can put it on something different. And I'd like to find out what kind of relationship you habitually have with your mind, okay? So my question to you is, I'm going to put a poll up on your screen in a moment. How would you describe your mind's activity? How would you describe your mind's activity? Like your relationship with your mind? I'm just going to put the poll up here. Okay. All right, so you should see that on your screen. So I just want you to pick up your mouse and click one of the following. So how would you describe your mind's activity? Is it like out of control? Is your mind just constantly on? Is it always racing? Do you feel like it's kind of racing and going really fast? Do you feel that it's sometimes busy? Do you feel like you've got a good relationship with it? It's there when it's needed. You can pick it up and put it down again, or that it's very peaceful in your mind. Okay, so just the last couple of people to vote. Just pick up your mouse. You can click on the screen there. Right. Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. All right, cool. I'll close that and then share the results with you. So you should be able to see that. Really interesting. We've got 67% of you saying your mind is always racing. Wow. 67% is always racing and 33% is sometimes busy. I'm really glad we're doing this mindfulness program, right? Because what I want for you to do is kind of imagine that you can go down a category. So if your mind's always racing by the end of this program, you want to be kind of sometimes busy or there when needed, go down. Imagine you can go down one or at least, if not two categories. And also, if you are sometimes busy, you can go down to there when needed or peaceful. Okay, great. Thank you. I'm just going to close that. Really interesting. So in other words, you're not alone, okay? You're not alone. I'm just going to send a message to Catherine because I saw you emailed me. Sorry, bear with me. Just want to make sure she can hear. It's not at this end. Try your sound settings. All right, thanks everyone. Okay, so I just want to describe what mindfulness is to get really clear on what it is and what it isn't. So some features of mindfulness is awareness. And what I mean by awareness is the torch, okay? So do you have the capacity to put the torch on where you want it to go? Is it constantly on your mind? Is it that you're able to pick it up and put it down when you want? What is your relationship like with your attention, with your awareness? And so that's one of the first features, that you have conscious control over your awareness. Non-judgmental attention is, I'll go into it later, but in brief, it's having attention on what you're doing, on your body, on your experience, on a situation, without judging it. So without saying it is right or wrong, this is good or bad. I wanted the pink one, not the blue one. I wanted to be early, not late. I wanted to, have the prawn salad for lunch, not the ham sandwich. It's being able to not judge what's going on as being good or bad. It's just to be with what's happening with neutral attention. Just a flag here that thoughts are not facts. They're neutral mental events. And a lot of what we call, some people might be familiar with CBT or NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. It's a lot of those kind of processes are about changing your thoughts. So if you're having a negative thought, let's change it. Let's get empowered. Let's be positive. Mindfulness is different. Mindfulness is being able to step back from all thoughts, whether they're good or bad, because you know what? For you to have entirely positive thoughts, which obviously create more encouraging positive emotions, and then you get good results because you're behaving in empowered ways. But for you to get constantly positive results means that you have to get every single glitch off your hard drive. And I don't know about you, but I'll be doing that for the rest of my life. You know, unless you're fully enlightened, fully cooked, and an absolutely perfect human being, there are always going to be things that trigger you. There are always going to be difficult situations which you interpret in a slightly disempowering or negative way. So mindfulness allows you to deal with whatever's going on in your mind and not automatically believe it. You have to, in my opinion, my humble opinion, you have to be able to deal with unhelpful thoughts, as I said, because you've been programmed, not by you, you've been programmed by people or events in your past. 0 to 7, by 7 years old, they say around 70 or even 80% of what's in your mind, your beliefs about yourself and the world, have already been formed by the age of 7. So you didn't do that consciously. You've been programmed, right? And so however much you want to try and be positive all the time, I don't think that's going to happen. I've never seen somebody who's entirely positive all the time, apart from the very occasional, you know, fully aware, fully enlightened being that I've had the privilege of being with. But us mere mortals have thoughts that aren't helpful. So learning how to have them and be aware of them as neutral mental events rather than facts, or it's the word of God speaking in your head, is an incredibly powerful skill. Be able to witness thoughts. So by witnessing, I just mean, okay, so there's a thought, okay? There's a thought going past that that I'm not good enough. I like to talk about fishes. Fishes with little placards on their backs. You're all going, oh, it's getting really weird now. It's just a little tool that I can give you, but I like to see a fish on the screen of your mind. Imagine a little goldfish swimming past, you can see it, and it's got a placard on its back, and it says, you're not good enough. Now, if you go off swimming with that fish and believing that thought, it's like you're going to have a whole different day, right, than if you just let it swim past. Because if you believe that thought, you are going to create some kind of emotion of feeling down or flat, and then you won't make the phone call, you won't have the sales call, you won't step up and do your project, or, you know, talk differently to a partner. So you see the fish, you read the little message on its placard, and then you say, next. And off the fishy goes. And then the next fishy turns up, and this one says, need to buy dog food. And you go, brilliant. Thank you, fish. What a great idea. Write yourself a note, and off you go to the shop and get the dog food. So do you get what I mean? It's like you're able to discern whether a thought is helpful and you need to observe it and engage with it, or whether a thought is just to be nexted, what I call nexting. So you can just next your thoughts until you get a useful one. Some people might be there all day, right? But because they've got so much negative programming in their mind that they just keep coming up with negative, disempowering thoughts all day. But if you keep nexting and just say, next, wait for another thought to come, you'll get into the habit of being able to witness them rather than believe them. Now, in terms of witnessing an emotion, you might think, how can you witness an emotion? It's a feeling. But to be able to witness a feeling is to allow it. What I mean by allowing emotion is feeling it, but not making up a story about it. So here's where most of us get in trouble, right? We have a feeling in the pit of our stomach that might be described as spiky, red, gripey, and hot. You can describe the sensation, you can describe the feeling in your body. That's fine. We can live with that sensation. It might be uncomfortable, but we can live with it. Where we get into trouble is saying to ourselves that because I have this gripey, red, hot feeling in my stomach, that means I'm not good enough. And then we get all sad about it. So you learn to be able to witness your thoughts and your feelings. You realize they're separate things, and you can allow all of them because they don't mean the truth. Like with the thought, even if you have the thought, I'm not good enough, it's not the truth. It's just a thought. It's just a synapse firing off somewhere in your mind, okay? Just because you have a feeling that you might be able to label something like inadequacy, that doesn't mean you're inadequate. How could a red spiky feeling in your stomach mean that you as a human being are inadequate? Do you see what I mean? It's not possible. So you learn to witness those thoughts and those feelings or sensations without getting caught up in them. You then develop acceptance of those sensations. Now, if those of you were at One Woman Conference, I talked briefly about emotional allergies. So for many of us, we have quite a few feelings that we cannot stand to feel. For an example, some people might not want to get up on stage because they're too afraid of feeling ashamed or embarrassed. Some people don't want to get into relationships because they're too afraid of feeling rejection. Some people don't want to put themselves out in business and start the business that they know they've always wanted to do because they're afraid of feeling a failure. So these emotional allergies, these feelings that we refuse to feel, often cause us to bite our nose off to spite our face. We stop ourselves feeling fulfilled in life because we're afraid of a silly old feeling. It's just a feeling, okay? So we'll be looking at how to change that around. And a situation. So, okay, there's the sensations on the inside, the situation's on the outside. So accepting a situation, you don't have to remain in a situation forever, but you need to know that it's going on. You need to know that it's happening and that accepting what's actually happening is the first place to start to be able to change it to what you want. I'll talk about that a bit more later. And a state of wakefulness. Okay, so mindfulness is not sleepiness. Mindfulness is not a relaxation technique or a nice, let's look at the crystals and let's, chant and stand on our head and do all sorts of particular things to calm down. It's not a body relaxation for the purposes of relaxing. Mindfulness is to wake up. Mindfulness is to help you get alive again. It's to help you feel vital. It's to help you wake up all of your energy system, like your heart. Yeah, feel your emotions again. Learn to master your mind. Learn to be able to speak your truth. Be able to open your sexuality and feel your femininity. So it's a state of heightened wakefulness and awareness. So I just want to make sure that you don't think we're just going to be sitting here relaxing and getting all calm and peaceful, because yes, some of the exercises I'll do will have that, kind of response for you. You'll feel a bit more relaxed, but that's not the end goal. It's waking up, finding truth, finding the truth of what's going on in your head, opening your heart, becoming a very alive and complete human being. All right, so let's get on to some techniques here. So present moment awareness is the very first place to start with mindfulness practice. Just coming back to the present. And there are some really simple ways to do that. Why present? Because it's happening. Very simply, the present moment is the only thing that's actually going on. Everything else is made up. Your past is made up, it's finished. The future's made up, you have no idea what it actually is going to look like when it comes. This particular present moment is the only thing that's real. You don't have anything else. It's all made up. And to the extent that, okay, I don't know where you're sitting, but I'm imagining you're sitting in an office or at a table or with a chair probably, and that I guess that most of you have a car. But right now, in this particular moment, can you prove to me whether you have a car or not? And you're probably going, yes, I know I've got a car, it's outside. But can you prove to me that you have one without going outside and having a look at it and poking it and making sure that it's still there? Do you get what I mean, everybody? Can you prove to me that it's there? No, you can't, unless you go and see it and then prove to yourself. In this moment, what you've probably got is a computer screen and then maybe a table and a chair and a wall, perhaps, whatever you can see in front of you is what this precious moment in your life contains. Everything else is made up. You have to use your imagination to imagine it, to bring it from your past into your present, or to take your present moment awareness and put it into the future and imagine something's going to happen. Is that clear, everyone? Does everyone understand that? Send me a message if you don't. That's a really important point. So, body awareness Ella's saying, just walked past my car. Oh, good. So you're doing this on the run. That's fine. So you can prove that it's still there when you're seeing it. But if you're not with it, you can't prove that it's there. Yeah? Good. So we're going to do a little body awareness exercise now. So I want you to get yourself comfortable. So Ella, if you're walking, you can still do this, but just don't close your eyes because you're walking to something. So everyone else, as long as you're not driving or walking where you need your eyes open, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. So go ahead, get yourself really comfy or just walk in a relaxed way and close your eyes. Take a breath. Breathe in, breathe out, just to center yourself with your breath, with your feelings in your body. And I want you now to take your attention. This is not your mind. Remember, this is the torch of your attention. So you don't need to think about anything. You just need to take the torch of your attention and I want you to put it on your right big toe. So you want to imagine taking your attention down inside your leg. So it's not that you're kind of imagining looking at your big toe from above, from where your eyes are. Put your attention down inside your right leg, travel right down inside it so that you can feel inside your big toe. What's going on inside your big toe? If it's not easy for you to feel it, you might want to wiggle it. So wiggle your big toe so that you can touch. Maybe you'll feel your shoe, your sock. You might feel a toe next to it. What can you feel inside your big toe, your right big toe? What sensations can you become aware of? Good. And then move the torch of your awareness up to your left thigh. Wherever your left thigh is, putting your attention inside your left thigh. Putting the torch of your attention inside your left thigh. Noticing, do you feel pressure? Do you feel the clothes on your leg? Do you feel the chair under it if you're sitting down? What can you feel inside that thigh? Putting 100% of your attention inside your thigh. Good. Now moving your attention to your right hand. Again, putting your attention right inside your right hand. Maybe you can feel your fingers touching your other fingers. Maybe you can feel your right hand on your lap. There's maybe softness or warmth or pressure where you're touching your other fingers if you have your hands clasped. What can you be aware of inside that hand? Putting 100% of your awareness inside your right hand. Very good. Now moving your attention to your back. Feeling inside your back, noticing any areas of tension or tightness. There may even be pain, discomfort. There may be some areas that you can't feel. There's no sensations there. Noticing, feeling every sensation that you can find in your back. That's it, very good. And now I want you to move your attention to your liver. It lives under the right-hand side of your rib cage. It's a large brown organ, and you probably haven't often checked in with your liver, but I just want you to see if you can find it. See if you can find any sensations of having a liver, because it's in there and it's actually performing hundreds of chemical reactions and chemical tasks. It's changing things, it's helping with digestion, it's detoxing things for you. It's doing hundreds of things each second. It's extraordinary what goes on in the liver. It's an absolute factory, but how often do we check whether it's there? So putting your attention now into the area under your right side of your rib cage. Just see if you can find anything. Good, well done. And one last time, I want you to move your attention up your body to your left ear. Putting 100% of your attention on your left ear. You may not be very familiar with feeling your ear. If you can't find it, you might want to wiggle your jaw a little bit so that you can feel your ear and just see what sensations you can find where your ear is. Putting 100% of your attention into your ear. If any thoughts come up, you can just say next to them and come back to your ear. Good, and then kind of expanding your awareness to include the whole of your body. Take a deep breath in and out. Bring yourself back to the room or wherever you are and open your eyes. Great, well done everyone. So how was that for you? What did you notice? What did you notice? What didn't you notice? What was easy for you? Was it hard? Was it difficult? Send me some messages. I'd love to know how that was for you. Oh, Ella, you're walking your baby. Oh, how gorgeous. Yes, absolutely. You can listen to the recording later. I'll have it up. Should have it up online for you by tomorrow, but I'll send you the link once it's up so you can listen to it again to get your little bubby to sleep. That's gorgeous. So how was that? Okay, good. Good, lovely. Challenging. Initially found it difficult to not use your imagination. Yep, we're very used to kind of seeing things in our mind's eye, aren't we? So this is all about feeling. How else was it? Which parts were easy? Which parts were hard? Did you find your liver? Did you not find your liver? Liver was hard, okay. But you have one, right? You know it's there. It's doing an amazing job for you. So just imagine all those things that are going on inside you every minute. There are just countless reactions going on in your body every minute. And it's amazing that so much is going on and we're not aware of the vast majority of it. So Bronwyn said she was trying not to worry about your 3-year-old who's downstairs in front of the telly. Absolutely, I totally understand that. However, as long as your child's okay, I think your child would let you know if they're not okay, hopefully. But if you can give yourself a moment, it's amazing to see how quickly the mind wants to jump in, right? Even though everything's okay. So just letting yourself have a moment, being fully present, and then if you need to kind of go back to your ears to listen and check that your kid's okay, then you can do that. But to start to really train this faculty of awareness that we have. What did you notice? What kind of sensations did you notice when you were doing that? Oh, good, Bronwyn. You put your hand over the ribs to focus on the liver. Great, that helped you to find it. Perfect, well done. What other sensations did you find? Okay, heat, pressure. Good, warmth. Yep, perfect. Oh, you felt your blood going through the hand, Kath. Amazing. Great. And what were you thinking when you were doing that? Bronwyn's toe was cold. Good. What were you thinking? So in the moments when you had 100% of your attention on your feelings, what were you thinking, everyone? Yep, that's about right. Nothing. You can't think and feel at the same time. You can only feel. So, and Bronwyn could feel the rings on your fingers. How lovely. So when you're fully feeling, there is no thinking, but it only happens when you're 100% focused. So this is one practice that I'd love you to practice as often as possible, okay? Because it's a very quick way to bypass the mind and to come back into your feelings. Remember that your attention is a torch, and mindfulness is really attention training, if you like. So we're putting your awareness on something other than the mind. That's what meditation is, and mindfulness. So to put your awareness on a feeling, on a sensation in your body, will really help to bring you present, to cut the habit of the mind, and to bring you back into now and what's actually going on in your body. So that's a really, really great place to start. So well done, everyone. I now want you to practice that present moment awareness and to bring your attention to actually doing something. So hopefully you've all got a drink handy. So not yet, but in a moment I'm going to ask you to pick up a glass of water or whatever you have handy, not yet, but in a moment, in a very slow, exaggerated way. Paying attention in the same way as you paid attention to your foot and your thigh and your back, paying attention to what happens in your muscles when you lift up the glass or the cup. You raise it up, feel the biceps muscle working and the triceps muscle extending, feel your wrist tightening to hold the cup or glass in place. Feel the weight of the glass in your hand and the smoothness and perhaps the coolness or the heat. Bring it up to your lips. Take a slurp. Feel the liquid in your mouth and then consciously swallow it, allowing yourself to notice what happens as you swallow that liquid down into your stomach. Okay, so you want to do it very slowly and very, very consciously, paying attention to every feeling along the way of that process, just as you did in the previous exercise. So go ahead now, everybody, pick up your glass or your cup or your bottle, lifting it very slowly, aware of every muscle that's moving to make that possible, aware of the container in your hand. Notice the sensations of having it in your hand, slowly putting it to your mouth, taking a sip, noticing how the liquid feels in your mouth. Is it cool? What does it feel like as it's swooshing around in your mouth? And then as you swallow it, notice the sensation of your throat swallowing. What does that feel like to have your throat swallow? You probably do it hundreds of times a day and don't notice it. So right now, notice it and notice what it's like to have the liquid flowing down your throat. Great. All right. Well done, everybody. Perfect. Good. Okay, so what did you notice? What was it like to drink consciously? What was it like to drink consciously? Oh, okay, different. Interesting. It's really wet. Yes, it is. Liquid is really wet. Smooth. Ah, glass felt heavy. Yeah, exactly. Could you feel your muscles moving when you did that? Do you know how many kind of muscular equations have to be solved for you to lift up a glass? A lot. There's a contraction here and a comparative expansion over there. There's so many muscles going on in your hand to allow you to pick something up. You've got opposable thumbs as a human being. You've got to coordinate all that stuff just to be able to have a drink. It's an amazing process, and yet we do things like that hundreds of times a day without awareness. So I asked you before to bring something to eat. So I want you now to grab your grape or your bit of chocolate or your bit of biscuit or your currant or raisin. First of all, I want you to put it in your hand. So put your bit of food in your hand. If you don't have any food, you can pick something up that you can put in your mouth safely. You know, whether it's some lip salve or it's a pen lid or something that you know where it's been. But hopefully you've all got some food. So have a look at the food and actually examine it like you're seeing it for the first time. So if it's a raisin, you might see that it's brown. You notice the wrinkles. You notice the shape of the raisin. You notice what it feels like in your hand. Is it heavy or light? Is it smooth or rough to the touch and under your hand, in your hand? What is this thing that's in your hand? Without labels, just notice the qualities of it with all of your awareness. And then go ahead and pick it up slowly in the same way as you had the drink. very slowly picking it up, feeling the muscles working in your arm to enable you to move it towards your mouth, putting it in your mouth. Don't swallow it straight away, but I want you to chew it, to suck it, to run your tongue over it. Whatever it is, explore it in your mouth. If it's a grape, maybe as you chew it, you feel the juice inside kind of exploding around your mouth. Notice every sensation as you chew. What do your teeth feel like when they come into contact with it? What's your tongue notice about the taste or the smell of that food? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Does it feel good? Is it rough? What's it like? And then go ahead, swallow it. Again with consciousness. Good. Okay, fabulous. What did you notice, ladies? What did you notice about eating consciously? Eating mindfully? Yum, want more. It's nearly lunchtime. What else? What else did you notice about eating consciously? Oh, wow, I love it. The almond feels velvety. How gorgeous. Yeah, well noticed. Yeah, they do, aren't they? They're kind of velvety on the outside. Beautiful. Raisin is crunchy and rough. Yes, good. Grape is smooth and juicy. Wonderful. Well done, ladies. Awesome. Now, did you notice again that you weren't thinking a whole lot when you were doing that? You were just focusing on eating. Yeah, and a pecan nut is rough and dry, absolutely. So again, when you put 100% of your attention on an activity, whether it's eating, drinking, or walking, or brushing your teeth, you don't need to think about it. We know how to pick something up and put it in our mouth without thinking about it. They do say that around 70% of what we do during the day, minimum, is what we call programmed in to our supercomputer. We know how to walk, we know how to eat, drink, drive, type, use a computer, brush our teeth, cook toast, right? Turn lights on and off. We know how to do all those things unconsciously. We've become unconsciously competent at them. We don't need to think, now how do I turn a light switch on? So in other words, you don't need your mind to be working out how to turn the light switch on. This means that it's great that we can do that, but it also means that we've then got spare mind capacity, right, in which to think about yesterday or how awful tomorrow is going to be. That's why we get so out of sync with reality, with what's going on, because we don't need to think about a lot of what we're doing during the day. So rather than having your mind just on automatic pilot, just going all the time, you can interrupt that by bringing your attention back to the present, putting 100% of your awareness on an activity, and then using that as a daily practice. So I encourage you, when you eat, don't have the TV on. Don't necessarily be chatting to somebody every time. Just sit and eat and be with the process of eating. Just try it, just for a meal or a sandwich. Just be fully with every single bite, every single chew, every single swallow, and be with your food. If you're going for a walk, just notice your footfall on the pavement. Notice the wind swishing past your face as you walk through. Notice the sound of the leaves rustling as you walk under a tree. Notice the sound of a car driving past you. Get in your body. Feel the swish of your arms moving past your hips as you walk. Brushing your teeth. Feel your hand on the toothbrush. Feel the toothbrush on your teeth, the kind of frothy toothpaste bubbling up in your mouth, and do nothing other than just brush your teeth when you're brushing your teeth. You can do that for anything. Driving, you can have your hands on the steering wheel, your foot on the accelerator. You're fully 100% present in the car, noticing every car that goes past in the rearview mirror, noticing every gear change that you do. You are 100% present with heightened awareness. So mindfulness, do you see what I mean about wakefulness, right? If you're very mindful, you are so much safer on the roads because you're actually present with what you're doing. Because we know how to drive, we programmed it into our brain. We don't need to think, oh yes, that's right, to change gear, I've got to put my foot on the clutch and then change the gear and put my foot on the accelerator and juggle the 2 feet. We don't have to do that anymore. So that means we can think, and many people report having gone from A to B without remembering anything about the journey because they weren't actually there. It was just their body on autopilot. So please drive safely, be present, use equipment safely because you're present. We make mistakes and have accidents when we're not fully there. So it's a safety process as well. But for the purposes of increasing your awareness and calmness, it can allow you to have a break from the ravages of the mind and just have a simple experience of, I'm holding a steering wheel. I've got a mouse in my hand. I can feel the smooth plastic under my hand, right? Life's very simple when we allow it to be. Okay, so in terms of meditation is banded around in all sorts of contexts. As I said before, people tend to think relaxation exercises are meditation, guided visualizations are meditation. In my practice, I work with clients, meditation is an active process of waking up through putting your attention on something other than the mind. So those things I mentioned before are brilliant relaxation exercises, but they're not classical meditation. Classical meditation is to wake you up, to open up your energy system, to have amazing experiences outside of your normal consciousness, to kind of get in touch with what life is really about, who you really are. So there's some ways that you can do that is to put your attention on something other than the mind, anything other than the mind. So body awareness, I've just taken you through. And please do that as many times as the day as possible. Really important. Come back to the present, feel your hands on your lap, feel your hand on the cup. Breath awareness. The breath is important because it's the one faculty in the body that is under both automatic control and conscious control. In other words, when you forget about breathing, it goes on automatically, but you can bring your awareness to breathing and influence it. You can also do that with your heart rate to some extent if you're a yogi. They've got lots of research that yogis and meditation practitioners of long standing can reduce their heart rate to incredibly low levels because they're so peaceful and they can actually consciously impact their heart rate, which is pretty cool. But for now, let's just stick with the breath. So do use your breath because when you get stressed, your breath increases. It comes up from your diaphragm in your ribs where it should be mostly. And we start to breathe from the chest, which can really enhance an experience of anxiety. So breathing consciously. And what I'd encourage you to do is take time to notice your breathing before you choose to change anything. So just go, oh, that's right, I'm meant to be remembering how to breathe. Notice your breathing and then see where it is in your body, whether it's deep or shallow, and just notice it. And then if you want to change it, you can. Now, because it's a process that's automatic, sorry, someone scared the shit out of me by knocking on the window. Jumped out of my skin. So because it's a process that's automatic, you can influence it, but it's difficult to remember to do because you're just breathing all day without remembering it. So when I was learning this, I put blue dots all around my house. I put them on the wall, on the computer, on the doorknobs, on the microwave, the kitchen, the cups, whatever else. Every time, and then I trained myself that every time I saw a blue dot, I remembered to notice my breathing, not to change it necessarily, just to notice it. And so whatever little kind of anchor will help you, whether you remember like every time I'm going to pick up a cup, I'm going to notice my breathing, that would be great. Every time I put my hand on a doorknob, I'm going to remember my breathing, or blue dots if that's going to work for you. That will help. A sound. You can meditate with a sound, and often what's called a mantra is a sound that you repeat on the inside. There are many, many mantras. You can get given them if you do particular meditation groups, but you can, traditionally the sound Om or Aum is a sound that you can make repeatedly, but it's just kind of imagining a sound in your mind and just keep repeating it to take your awareness to that sound. Or you can meditate with your eyes open, just on a candle flame or on a cup of tea. or on your mouse. It doesn't have to be anything so-called spiritual. You can just focus on something very intently. Like we have been doing with your body, you can just focus on what you can see. So you can do that, and it's, sorry, someone's talking to me through the window now. You can focus on anything that you can see around you, and also walking, as Ella was doing, walking around. You can focus on your body, as I said before. Just focus on the walking, but consciously. Use it consciously as a practice. And any daily activity. Anything you're doing, as I said, the washing up is a great place to do mindfulness practice. Brushing your teeth, cooking lunch or supper. It's brilliant mindfulness practice. Good. Okay, so any questions about that, let me know in the question box. So mindful minutes, this is a little tool that's helped a lot of people I've worked with to actually make it a habit, because the things we're talking about, right, aren't habits. We have to train ourselves, and mindfulness is not something that you do on a call once a week. For an hour, you come to a call and then, we chat about stuff. Mindfulness is a practice that you need to make into a habit. And something that helps is to set an alarm on your phone so that you create a mindful minute habit. Set an alarm on your phone to go off every hour, but not at the night. That would be really annoying when you're trying to sleep. And just take 1 minute out of each hour to become present, to observe your experience, to not judge or change it, just to breathe and to welcome what is. I'm here, I've got my hands on a cup, everything's fine, I'm alive, and I'm breathing, okay? So just to be with what is. So some people find that really helps. You want to do that maybe for a week. Try that for the next week if you think it would help you. Have an alarm every hour, and then just have 1 minute. It's not long, just to be very clear about what's happening for you. Now I'm going to give you a little trick here, okay? So this is called the mouse hole game. So if you find it difficult to get a break from your mind, if your mind, if you're one of those people who said your mind is always racing, here's a little trick you can do. So I want you to go ahead, and if it's safe and okay for you to do so, close your eyes. And I want you to start to take your attention to where the thoughts come from. Taking your attention to where the thoughts come from. There's a place that the thoughts come from in your mind. So take your attention there now, and imagine that you're almost like a cat waiting at a mouse hole. Putting your attention on waiting for the next thought. All of your attention waiting at that mouse hole for the next thought to come out. All of your attention waiting. Good. Well done. Well done, everybody. Excellent. And then just breathe and open your eyes. Great. What happened? What did you notice? What did you notice? What happened to the thoughts? Ha-ha! No thoughts. Didn't think. There weren't any. Exactly. So if you find yourself bombarded by thoughts day in, day out, excuse me, just use the mouse hole game, and you can just interrupt your thought pattern. It's really useful just to interrupt the thought pattern to give you a break. Once you've interrupted it, then you can get present again and choose whether you want to continue thinking in the same way, and then you can start nexting with the little fishes and do different things. But the mouse hole game is really, really cool. Little trick, huh? Good job. Now, the reason why it's helpful is because the thoughts, remember, are not real. The thoughts are just thoughts. And between the thoughts is actually a whole lot more useful for you if you're interested in mindfulness and having a bit more peace and calmness and happiness in your life. The reason why is because in the gap between thoughts, you can get really present. Remember that the mind is focused not on now, it's focused somewhere else. In the gap between the thoughts, you can feel your body, you can notice what's going on, and you can start to actually open up a bit. So even if you get a microsecond between thoughts or a couple of seconds between thoughts, that's fine. You can start to expand it and you can start to explore what really happens between those thoughts. Minding the gap. Minding the gap between thoughts. Just with practice, you'll start to expand that gap between thoughts to the point where you really can pick up your mind like a tool, use it to answer a question or work out an equation, or put it onto your business and sort things out. And then when you're done with that, you can put it down again and it becomes quiet. So I don't expect you to do that straight away today, but just to know that every time you interrupt the thoughts, every time you do the mouse hole waiting game, every time you get a microsecond of space in between a thought, kind of feel like you're expanding into it, because that's where presence really happens, where you can live between those gaps. Now, another technique is when we get all riled up, okay? So when we get upset, when we get frustrated, when we get angry, when we get really sad, really stressed, is to bring what I call emotional equity to what's happening. So I touched on this before, but just to clarify, emotional equity is being okay with all the emotions. Remember I talked about the emotional allergies that some people experience? They're just refusing to feel failure or rejection or shame, okay? And they're running their lives around avoiding those feelings. Emotional equity means that you're able to allow all emotions for a start, and you're able to allow an emotion until it goes. A nice little phrase, if it helps you, is this too. Like if you're feeling sad, it's this too is okay. This too is welcome. You just welcome each feeling because it's there. If you're feeling sad, it's pointless trying to get rid of it because it's already happened. It's already there. And we don't kind of get the point that we're trying to avoid feelings that we're actually already feeling, which is why we know to avoid them, because we're already feeling discouraged or sad or ashamed. So just open up and allow yourself to have that experience and see what happens. So do an experiment. If I allow myself to feel a bit of shame, do my arms fall off? If I allow myself to feel rejection, what happens? No one's ever died of a feeling. It doesn't happen. It's just uncomfortable. And the more we get to allow each of the feelings, then the easier it gets next time. So you put your attention on the feeling until it goes. Now that doesn't mean wallowing. It doesn't mean telling yourself stories about how awful that terrible person is. It means focusing on the sensation. Are you all clear about what the difference is now between a thought and a feeling? Yeah? It's absolutely vital that you know that, and please don't confuse the two, because that's where a lot of confusion happens. The emotion, the feeling is just something in your body. Remember, it's the red, spiky, cold or hot feeling in your stomach. Just focus on that. And if you allow it to be there without judging it, guess what? It's going to go. I mean, even bawling your eyes out and absolutely devastated, I can't bawl my eyes out for more than, or if I'm going full guns, maybe 20 minutes, maybe half an hour if I'm really committed to bawling my eyes out. You just can't do it for that long. You can't bawl your eyes out for days. It doesn't happen. Your body's exhausted. You need to breathe and replenish, So you can't do an emotion solidly that's really intense. So don't get scared about them. They're all going to go. It's okay. It's just going to be a temporary discomfort and then it goes. Does that make sense, everyone? So if you just allow them, you're not fighting what's actually going on. So with emotions, it's neither suppressing them nor wallowing them. By wallowing, I mean don't kind of sit in a feeling. You get to wallow by telling yourself a story, frankly. I'm not good enough. Nobody likes me. I'm never going to make it. Everyone else is cleverer than me. It's real victim thinking when we wallow in feelings, feeling sorry for ourselves, or feeling sad. Sometimes we can wallow in sadness. People can get stuck in grief for years. They lost somebody, of course, which is incredibly sad. But you don't need to be sad 5, 10, 15, 20 years later. You need to have let go of that. So wallowing in feelings doesn't help, and suppressing in feelings causes a whole raft of avoidance techniques and addictions and a whole lot of stuff that I talked about at the One Woman Conference. So all emotions are equal if you want to think about it like that. Sadness is the same as happiness, is the same as grief, is the same as excitement, is the same as all of them. They're just feelings. It doesn't matter. You get to a place where you don't really care what you're feeling anymore. Because otherwise, if you're only happy when you're happy and feeling love, then the rest of the time you're going to be struggling with everything else that your body's going to produce. In my book, Personal Development Handbook, I talk about how we have 365 emotions on the hard drive. If you want, it's not true, I'm just making it up. Like one for every day. My dog had 28 emotions, the happy ears, the I'm going to go for a walk ears, the where's my supper ears. Animals aren't as complex as us. They certainly have their feelings. But human beings are incredibly sophisticated, complex creatures, and we have a whole bunch of emotions. If you only like half a dozen of them and you can't stand the rest of them, can you see that you're going to be avoiding a whole bunch of stuff that happens in life because you'll think that stuff will mean that you possibly, perhaps, maybe have one of the feelings you don't like, so you won't put your hand up. You won't talk in class. You won't get on stage. You won't get in a relationship. You won't do that stuff because you don't want to feel the feelings. If all emotions are equal, then you welcome all of them. This too. This too is welcome. Without the judgment is the most important thing, okay? Without judging them. Or labeling them. You don't even need to label them what they are. Just welcome them. Allow them. Okay, so the result of doing this is pretty profound. It's not just that you get more present, it's that you really start to live from a place of acceptance. From acceptance, you develop peacefulness. From peacefulness, you become really happy and joyful and able to express yourself in life. And from there's a very deep experience of freedom, which is kind of ultimate freedom, is where nothing touches us anymore. Nothing can ever upset us ever again because we're really free from all that. So let's just start, though, with the basics, which is acceptance and awareness. So just to flag that the ego does only one of two things. The ego is concerned with taking us towards pleasure. So we want the nice partner. We want the cup of tea with the chocolate sprinkles on it. We want the carrot cake, not the banana cake. We want money in the bank. We want whatever it is that we think is going to give us pleasure. Or we're moving away from pain. Pain is physical pain, of course, but mainly it's emotional pain. But that's all the ego does. So from morning till night, if we're really identified with the ego, all we're doing is kind of like a computer making decisions based on ones and zeros. Is it pain? Is it pleasure? Is it pain? Is it pleasure? I go towards the pleasure, I go away from the pain. Yeah, it's a very limited way to be, actually. So if that's all we're doing, can you see how you can't make decisions to do something or to embrace something that you think is going to cause you pain because your ego won't let you? And conversely, you can't move towards things. You kind of get addicted to moving towards things that are going to give you pleasure, even though when you get there, they might not be pleasurable at all. I mean, I'm sure many of you have got new jobs and then it turns out to be awful, or got into a relationship with somebody and they're a nightmare, right? So it's not actually the case that something's going to always give you pleasure, but we sort of assume that it will. So that's the zeros and ones of the ego. Does that make sense? Okay, right. Okay, good. All emotions are equal. Ella's got that. Good, good, good. Excellent. So the definition of suffering, just go back to the previous slide. So if you're caught up in this, you've got to get pleasure or get away from pain. The definition of suffering is wanting something to be different from how it is. The definition of suffering is wanting something to be different from how it is. Why? Because if you want to be 5'9" and you're 5'4", you'll be suffering over it because you're assuming there's pleasure in being 5'9". If you want to be living in Bora Bora and you're living in Swindon, you'll be suffering because you're assuming that there's pleasure in Bora Bora and there's not in Swindon. If you want to have £1 million in the bank and you've got 53p, you'll be suffering because you're not accepting how it is. The bigger the difference between what your situation is and how you want it to be is the degree to which you'll suffer. Is that clear, everybody? The difference between, the degree of the difference between how things are now and how you want them to be is the degree to which you'll suffer. If there's a big difference, you're going to suffer a lot. If there's a small difference, you'll be suffering less, but you'll still be suffering. That's all suffering is. Now, emotions aren't suffering if you accept them. Do you get what I mean by that? Suffering is what I'm talking about is it's awful, it's intolerable, I can't stand it, I'm in pain, I'm wallowing, I'm suffering here, it's bad. That place just feels terrible, and it's a place where we're not in acceptance of what is. Resistance is futile. Why I say that is because it is how it is. You are feeling the feelings you're feeling right now. You are having the experience you're having right now. It's futile to try and change it in this moment because it's too late. This moment's gone already, right? This moment is unchangeable. Does everyone get that? This moment is unchangeable. It's already in process. It's already happening. So to argue with this moment is like arguing with God. I don't want this moment. I want the other one. I want the nice one. This one sucks. Sorry, ladies, tough. This is the one you've got. So do you get it? Really, to have acceptance is so, so important. It is your path to freedom. Accepting what is doesn't mean you have to put up with it being this way forever. But accepting that it is this way right now is your path to freedom, whether you want to continue to accept this moment or you want to change it in the next moment. Okay, so if something's happening to you right now that you don't like, you don't have to sit there and go, oh God, I have to accept it. It's terrible. It's going to go on forever. Poor me. No. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying you have to accept that it's happening right now, whether you like it, love it, or hate it. It is happening. If you can't accept that it's going to continue, in the next moment, you can change it. You always have power about the next moment, but once it's here, it's too late. It's happening. Okay, so that's the acceptance piece. Now the next piece is peace. And peace happens when we can accept more and more of our experience exactly as it is. So if we get the blue one, we're not jumping up and down saying, I wanted the pink one. If we get the moment and we've got a cold and we didn't want to have a cold in this moment, then we just accept we have a cold and then we go down the shop and we get some throat lozenges. You know, it's accepting more and more of our experience. People who are peaceful are peaceful on the inside no matter what's going on. You can kind of hang out with people who are peaceful and the whole world seems to slow down. Your stresses and worries of the day seem to evaporate and you become more and more present and accepting of what's going on, and things start to feel like they're expanding. When you accept the moment, there's amazing expansion. You start to find the gaps between the thoughts like we were talking about, and there's a calmness and peacefulness that starts from the inside, radiates out, and really is very profound when you allow it. So the next thing that happens when you arrive in an experience of peace through acceptance is that then you can then be happy. And to go back to what I've been saying over the call, to summarize it really, is my formula for happiness is clear mind plus open heart equals full expression. I'll explain what I mean by that. Clear mind is not interpreting in a disempowering way, not believing your thoughts, bringing mindful awareness to your thoughts and not believing them. In other words, letting go of your stories, because it's the stories that cause you all the trouble, right? It's not what's generally happening mostly. It's the stories that we have about it. It shouldn't be happening. It's horrible. It's awful. It's unfair. Poor me. All this stuff. If you let go of your interpretations and your stories about life, and then you open your heart to your feelings about what's happening, you'll find that you can still actually experience love even when you're sad. You can still experience love even when you're afraid, because that when your heart is open to all your feelings, it's open to a whole lot more love, you know, and you don't lose the love so often. You know, we kind of lose the love and the sensation of being open and free in our hearts when we get afraid and we contract around the feelings. But when you allow all your feelings, you can still have an open heart while being in pain. You can still have an open heart while feeling really sad. But as I said before, it doesn't, because you don't care what feeling, you don't care what emotion you're having. You just stay open. I had a very rigorous teacher for a couple of years, quite a while ago now, who would have us in a chair. I was sitting with him 3 to 6 hours every day for around 18 months, which is pretty intense to say the least. But one of the things he would do would be to have a sitting in chair opposite him, and then he kind of press your buttons, right? He would talk about your partner sitting next to the pretty blonde girl, or he'd put you down in front of everybody, or make you feel shame, or criticize you, or kind of reject you, or do something to press your buttons, to poke you emotionally. And whatever you were feeling, you weren't allowed to close. Amazing practice. You could be sitting there with tears rolling down your face, and I was regularly, but you weren't allowed to energetically close around your heart. Like you couldn't defend yourself, you couldn't run away, you just had to sit there and practice being open with feeling anything. Wow, that was full on practice. I don't necessarily recommend everyone doing that. It's pretty intense, but I got it. And this open heart piece is so vital, just to learn to allow everything that you're feeling. And from that place, if you're no longer afraid of any of your feelings, do you understand, everyone, that you can then do anything? Because the only reason you don't fully express yourself in life is because you're afraid of what somebody will think if you do that. Will somebody judge you? Will you be a failure and you'll feel bad about yourself? Will somebody criticize you and you'll feel ashamed? Will somebody judge you and you'll feel inadequate? They're feelings, aren't they? The only thing that's ever going to happen to you if something tricky happens is that you'll have a feeling. If you practice open heart, you allow all your feelings, you never shut yourself down again from expressing what is inside you. And this is where, if you've been to any of the retreats with one of many, our Be Fulfilled retreat, I'm so passionate about, because we have gifts inside us. We have things that move us deeply that we want to express in life. And it breaks my heart to see people too scared to do that thing, or too afraid of judgment or criticism, or too shy or too worried to do it because they don't get this clear mind, open heart piece. Don't believe your stories about it. Allow any feelings, and you're free. You can do whatever you want. Does that make sense, everyone? Is that really clear? I hope I've explained it in a way that makes sense for you. Okay, so the final piece in the results here is an experience of freedom. When you can get happy and fully expressed, there's a lot of freedom that happens. When you're fully expressed and you're no longer moving away from pain and just moving towards pleasure, and moving away from pain and moving towards pleasure because you're okay with all your feelings, this is when suffering starts to minimize, and eventually suffering can end. The ego doesn't run you anymore in the same way. And it's kind of like you have to teach your mind, you have to teach your ego to deconstruct itself. Because your ego isn't real. No one's ever found your ego. There's no scientist that's ever opened up a person and gone, aha, there's the ego. There's Sarah, or there's Kath, They can't, there is no such thing as an ego. It's something that we make up. It's purely ideas about ourselves. And it can minimize, it can get less and less and less over time. For example, I'll give you an example of a client I worked with a while ago. She had a brother who was suing her, which is a pretty shocking thing to happen, right? But he was suing her over money, and saying that he wanted some of her money. And it went to court, and it was a horrendous experience for her. She was so totally betrayed and devastated by it. And when I first spoke to her, she was crying all the way through the session. She was totally, absolutely heartbroken by it. She couldn't think of his name without bawling. She was really in a bad state, terribly anxious and upset and depressed about it all. But as we worked through what her kind of beliefs were around it, as we worked through the feelings that she was avoiding, even though she was really upset, she was still avoiding some deeper feelings. Worked through getting her to a place of acceptance in what's happening, and to find different ways that she could manage herself with her feelings. She got to a place where not only was she not crying in her sessions, but she ended up going to court physically, being in a booth opposite him, and he was still doing his number of, I want my sister's money and she's awful. She didn't cry. She didn't defend herself. She didn't shut down. She didn't hate him. She had an open heart. She brought compassion to the situation, and she was able to change the result of that court case as a result of that. And she was peaceful around it. She'd found her peace. Do you know what I mean? And that's letting go of a piece of ego that needs to be liked by everybody, that thinks everyone, even family, should respect you, of letting go of the ego's need for avoiding pain. You don't have to avoid pain. You need to learn how to deal with pain. She let go of a whole chunk of her ego, and as a result of that, she was free in way more situations. And once you do that, you can experience yourself as presence. Now, I don't mean that you have to let go of every single bit of your ego to find presence, because you don't. You can find presence doing the mouse hole exercise. You can find yourself as presence by focusing on your big toe or being really with your cup of tea. It's not magic, right? But the point here is that you are not what you think you are. You think you're an English, Australian, American woman living in a certain country with a certain relationship or not, with certain kids or not, doing a certain job or not, and you think that's who you are. That's kind of a role that you have. That's a kind of a set of ideas that you have about yourself. It's not who you are. Who you are is what I call presence. If you think of yourself as a light for a moment, with a light bulb, like a lamp with a light bulb. Yes, there's a physical lamp and a light bulb, but that's not who you are. Like, that's the body, that's the vessel that you might identify yourself with. Who you really are is the electricity that runs through the bulb that lights it up. Now, when you can find yourself as that electricity or consciousness or awareness or God or love or universe or whatever you want to call it, that's when you can really start to find freedom as a way of being. And again, you're not going to find that overnight, but I just want you to be clear about where the journey leads, because mindfulness, as I said before, is not just about being present. It's so much more. It really is an opportunity to end suffering. That's what I'm about personally. I want freedom no matter what, at any cost. Really, freedom is when you get a taste of that, when you have experiences of getting outside of the container of the ego and suffering, and I've had many of those experiences through meditation practice, then it's more joyous and blissful and expanded than you can possibly imagine. To me, it's worth everything. It doesn't have to be that for you. You don't have to care about that. You just might want to be a bit calmer in your life, and that's fine. But just want to kind of put it out there that through this journey, there's an amazing openness and freedom that's possible. So let's wrap up here with some homework, and then I'll stay behind for questions if you have some. Some homework for you is to do your mindful minutes, right? So set an alarm on your phone, have 1 minute per hour to become mindful and present with what you're doing without judgment, just to notice your breathing, to get aware of your hands or your feet or your back or your ear, check whether you've still got a liver, and do that once a minute for every hour. Sorry, not once a minute, once an hour for a minute, for a week. Try it for a week and see if it works for you. It's just a reminder. Or do the blue dots, or do something that will bring you back to the present. Do the mouse hole technique. If you're getting caught up in the mind, go and sit by the mouse hole, be the cat, waiting for the mouse thoughts to come out of the mouse hole and cut the stream of the thoughts. Observing without labels, looking at something without labeling it. So imagine that you can just look at a painting without labeling it as a painting. Because when we look at something, we generally go, oh, there's a painting. I bought it at IKEA in 1997. It really doesn't go with the curtains that well, does it? Oh, God, it's dusty. I need to dust it. You know, we label it. We start thinking about the past. We start thinking about dusting it in the future. We're not with it. Okay, so be with what's around you without the labels and just experience what that thing is. Notice color, notice shape, notice the form, and be with something. That's a really lovely mindfulness practice. You want to practice some emotional equity. So if you have some emotions, just allow them, be with them, welcome them. Hey, sadness, you're welcome. And see what happens when you do that. Just explore and let me know. Now, we're going to be in touch on Facebook. Now, this Facebook is my personal page, which is Annie Stoker. It'll have a picture of me on it. So if you're not a friend already, please add me as a friend. I will go through, and if you haven't added me as a friend, I'll make sure that I add you as a friend. And what I'll do then is I'll create a post for each week where you can come in and share with me how you're doing. You know, I'll give you some comments and some bit of coaching around things if you need it. But just please touch base with me and let me know how you're going with it. I'll make a post on my Facebook page that nobody else can see, but I will tag you, each of you, in that group so that it's like a private little group where we can all chat about mindfulness and no one else can see us. So I'll do that a bit later on today. And I'll make sure that you're all friends on my Facebook page and then we can chat that way. So come and share in the Facebook group. I'd love you all to support each other with this. Get buddies, you know, if you want a little mindfulness buddy over the course of the next few weeks to keep you accountable, please do that. You know, bunch up together in twos and swap details, and then you can be buddies for each other. That really, really helps. And then I'll be in there every day to check what's happening for you. So this is the journey. This is kind of like a summary of the journey of mindfulness, which is that the mind makes a terrible master, but a great slave. You want to be changing that relationship so that making sure that your mind is under your control. It's something that you can pick up and put down. It's something that, you know, sure, it's always going to churn out thoughts, but you have the choice about whether you follow them or not. Okay, so we're slowly changing that relationship of you and your mind. Remember, there's you, there's your attention, and then there's your mind, and you don't have to be always engaged in the mind. Okay, great. Oh, Maria's saying that was peaceful. I've been listening in a quiet corner at work. Fantastic. So if you need to go, that's fine. Thank you so much for sharing with me today. I'm so grateful that you're with me and really looking forward to hearing from you in the Facebook group about how you're going. If you want to stay on, I'll stay on as long as you need and answer any questions. You're very welcome to answer questions. If you want to put your hand up, I'll come and open the line to you live and we'll have a chat. So it's a time you can celebrate any wins, you can share any challenges, and I'll, give you some laser coaching on where you can, maybe give yourself a different challenge. So thank you so much, everybody. If you need to go now, thank you. And everyone else, if you want to stay on the line, just put your hand up and I'll come and open the line to you and we can have a chat. Or put questions into the question box and I'll answer those for you. Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you. Thanks, ladies, for letting me know that. That's great. Fabulous. Okay, just put your hands up and I'll come up the line to you. Or ask any questions. Oh, now you've all gone quiet. I've been talking too long, right? I'd really love you to ask questions. Is there anything that's not clear? Is there anything that you need more explanation about or you want support with? Anything that you're not sure how to do? Got any questions around, yes, but what do you do if it's a Thursday? Or what happens if my husband hasn't made supper and how do I deal with that? Now's your time to ask questions. Don't be shy. No questions, really? Okay, all right, fine, that's easy. Okay, so if you don't have any questions, we will wrap up. So just a reminder, just do your homework. I will put that in the Facebook group when I set that up for you today. And otherwise, the recording of this call will be available hopefully within 24 hours, hopefully tomorrow. And I will send you an email with a link to access the recording. So thank you everybody so much. And I really look forward to chatting with you over the week and seeing how you're doing. I look forward to speaking with you next week on the call. Same time, same channel next week. All right, everybody, have a peaceful, content day and we'll be in touch soon. Lots of love to you all. Bye.